Welcome to MZBC, the podcast. Thank you for joining me and Mike again tonight as we come from the reclaimed lair. That's the new name we've given it.
Yeah, I was talking to Haley about that. I'm like, how do you even spell lair? so we Googled it riding down the road.
Okay.
I think it's L-A-I-R.
So just liar or just flip the...
Yeah, I was like, make sure we spell it right. It's like reclaimed liar. Which some people will agree.
A bunch of the men in here that have been reclaimed at one point or another, we were liars. So
yeah, and that's the truth.
It all kind of fits. So Mike was out last week vacationing?
Vacationing, man, it was brutally hot.
Yeah.
Man, it was awful hot.
So where do you guys vacation at when you do go?
We went down to Lake Seminole. And we got a little house on the lake, had a dock, so we put the boat in, and we just tied up at the dock, and we come back to the house, and they had a little shed. We just put the trailer in the shed, and
I think you told me one day it was 104 degrees.
It was 103 degrees, but it's, for those that don't know where Seminole is, it's right in the corner of Georgia, Florida, and Alabama, right down there in the corner. You'd probably been used to it because, I mean, you from Florida area, and I mean, I don't think it's that far from the coast.
I haven't been to the Florida area that I was from probably in 15 years. So yeah, I think that I've been here longer than I've been there. Because
there was no breeze,
yeah,
and hardly any cloud cover, and I mean, it was just miserable. If I'm like, we'll go out in the morning,
yeah,
and do a little fishing,
yeah,
come back, hang out in the air conditioning, watch cartoons, and then we'll go back out in the evening.
How was the fishing?
The fishing was not as prosperous as I was hoping it was going to be. Because this is the time where it's all top water. I mean, you just throw your top water baits as fast as you can go. And I think we caught 4 fish.
4? The whole time?
The whole time.
Man.
It was, but we did see we didn't count them all, but I think we saw about 30 alligators.
Wow.
We saw a ton of alligators.
I saw you had a lure going across the top and the alligator was coming after you.
Yeah, he was, I don't know what they call them in alligator term, but I guess a juvenile.
Oh, small.
I mean, he was probably only, about 2 foot long, so he just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And again, I was throwing that top water bait, and hey, there's something to eat.
And
so Haley got her phone out and was going to record it. And so I threw the bait out past him and come back by him, and he followed it all the way up to the boat.
But he never tried to grab it?
Well, I kept it away from him because it had hooks.
Gotcha. You don't want to try to get that out of his mouth.
Well, I didn't want to hook him. If he got that bait, I was just going to let him have it.
You could have went to the what you've watched on the History Channel, when they were in Louisiana. Shoot him!
Well, I was thinking, I was telling Haley, and of course she said I'm crazy. She goes, one of the small ones, if he got close enough, I was going to try to grab him. I mean, he's little. And
one of those.
It's probably not the wisest.
Yeah.
And I was sober when I had that thought.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's my next question.
Yeah,
How deep were we?
Because it was still early in the morning.
Still early in the day. I was gonna say that was what they say, like famous last words.
Yeah.
If he gets closer, I'm gonna try to grab it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
but
that's
I
good.
was but I mean the closer you got to them, I mean, the further they got away from you.
Gotcha.
I think the biggest one that we saw, now the bigger ones were well off, probably 30 yards as close as they got, and he probably looked like he was about.
Have you ever
6
been
feet.
to the Okefenokee Swamp?
I have not,
Yeah.
but I told Haley, I was like, when Levi gets a little older, a little more self-sustaining, where he could kind of defend himself, and I'd like to go down there and do a kayak trip.
We went we took a staff retreat down to the Okefenokee Swamp and stayed at, I don't know what the place was we stayed in, but you could go in the canoes and go down through the swamp and all this stuff. And man,
the channels I got.
Yeah, there were, I'm not joking, hundreds of alligators, and they're like a black color alligator, not the
Yeah,
typical.
I think they're real dark
They're
tainted
different.
water.
They're different, yeah. But I remember I had a pair of Oakleys like this, and they were sitting on my head, and a bee landed on my head, and I just forgot I had the glasses,
Slap.
and I went like that, and I knocked the glasses into the water, and
They go.
yeah, they go.
You didn't want to go get them?
Nah, I didn't even think about going and get those Oakleys. So those alligators, someone down there is chilling with some nice Oakleys on.
Now, speaking of that, we were fishing off the dock one day, and we have what Haley found them, and we bought them mainly. Well, we bought them for us when Levi fishes. It's called a hide bobber.
Okay.
It's a bobber, and it's like a slip bobber. It just slide up and down the line so far, and the hook, when they pick it up out of the water, the hook goes in the bobber.
Oh, okay.
So it don't go into parents when
they
the kids are
trying
swinging
to
it.
yoke it out. Yeah,
But when it hits the water,
I get it.
the hook will go down, and the bobber stays on the water and hits a stop.
Mhm.
So you can set the depth. We were fishing right there at the dock. Well, a little juvenile pops up out of the water, and I got hung in some reeds. There's a bunch of reeds down there, and it's only like 4 or 6 pound line, so it broke. Well, the bobber's out there floating. So the bobber's there, and that little alligator sees it, and he comes up to it, and he just noses up to it, and he just starts
gnawing on
gnawing. And Haley's recording it, and he'd hear Levi, "Is Daddy gonna get my bobber back?"
it. Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, I'll get it back." And I just kept throwing my line out. It was just line because it broke, and I'm, just trying to distract him. And the fishing line just barely hit him, and I mean he just
Took
takes
off.
off. And then the next morning, the bobber had floated all the way up to the seawall. So I just reached down there
and
and
got it. You couldn't look weak in front of your son. You had to try to get it. And
I was
Really, but we're gonna
contemplating.
get this.
I was like, "No, I'm gonna grab that sucker." But he was gnawing on that bobber.
Nice. Well, we go on vacation this week. Praise the Lord. It's been quite a year with COVID and church and life. So I know last year we got to go to Illinois, I believe, to my wife's parents during COVID, but it was during COVID, and so it is what it was. So this year we're going to be out of town and at the beach, so it should be fun.
You're gonna try to do some.
I'm gonna try to do some
what do you call
golfing.
it? Beach fishing.
Nah, I'm not a fisherman. I'll go fishing with you. I don't own a fishing pole,
Well,
so.
see, the last few times I've invited
Yeah,
you,
you got to tell the people this, man. I'm not a very, what's the word? I'm not very reliable when you invite me to go fishing. It seems like something always comes up, and you think that I'm trying to get out of fishing.
it could be the day we're leaving.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like, don't even text me.
I did get I was just telling my mother-in-law last night about going kayak fishing with you because when at where we're going,
But
that's
look at
one
all
of
the cool stuff you saw.
it was. I loved it. We saw an eagle, an owl.
Well, probably a couple of red-tailed hawks.
Yeah.
It was a great horned owl.
Oh, that's
Because
what
it had the
was.
little,
That's
little
right.
thing sticking
Right
out,
underneath
and he
it.
was.
Yeah, that boy was.
Now,
big.
if he hadn't have moved, you never would have saw it.
No, yeah, I know. Those things are
I was
sneaky.
like, those are just things
I think we
that
have
God has made.
like barn owls or something like out in our behind our house.
Y'all got the hood owls.
You just they're pop, pop. They'll make that noise that is just so
Screech.
It is just so
Screech
nasty.
owls. I think those may be a little
I heard a
bit
guy on the
smaller.
radio say that when you hear them making that noise, they're procreating. And so now when I hear that noise,
It might be a male thing.
now when I hear that noise, I just think, I don't know what them owls are doing out there. But so last week we had Wayne Chang and Allie join us. That was awesome.
And it was
getting
good.
to know them.
I did watch it.
Yeah.
You guys did great.
Getting to
I
know
enjoyed
those
it.
guys. So that class is going to kick off on July the 11th.
And I
so.
heard John Lee's name mentioned several times.
Several times. That's what I
It's
told.
like-
We had to say this is who John is because his name comes up a lot. It's like we follow him or something.
Yeah,
He's an influential dude.
he
And-
is. He's a special character.
He's going to be actually preaching on the 4th of July weekend. He's a Marine veteran, and so he'll be able to bring God's word, and it'll be kind of cool. So I'm thankful to just be able to get away. Heather's parents are here, and her brother got in town today. And
So is it going to be you and brother-in-law
Yeah.
out there?
Golfing? He doesn't golf. He drives the cart, and we hang out, and I golf. He tells me this is how far a shot you got, and gets the cart person to bring us water.
Now, when you
stuff
go,
like that.
do y'all use a rangefinder, or is it on the
I have
board
I
when
have
you
an
go
app on my
up?
phone. It's all GPS,
Mhm.
and it just pulls up whatever golf course you're at, and so it tells you where you are, and you got this far to go. No, rangefinders are expensive, and
You usually give them like $100.
yeah, that's a lot of money for a broke pastor. You're a rich mechanic, so you got $100 floating around. My wife doesn't
We'll
let me
let you
spend-
finish your story, and we'll see how the
Well,
mechanic
what-
life's been going this week.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. That's going to be. I hear it's been going pretty awesome.
But I think it's time. Everybody needs a break.
Yeah, man, it's good, and I'm grateful to have people that are in place for leadership that they can take over when you're out. You know, it just makes it all that much the better. So Jordan will be preaching this week, and then John next week, and so I'm thankful to be able to take a break and just get
I
away
think
for a
it's
while.
important to mention. This is probably just me. That they're doing it for the word and not for position.
Oh, of course, yeah. Neither one
I
of
think
them.
those guys are spot on for that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because so Levi's birthday party was last weekend. So anybody that doesn't know who that is, Levi's 5-year-old son, Mike's 5-year-old son. So I went to his
It's break time, man.
went to his birthday party, and there were people there that were
Oh,
surprised that I was a pastor. And I was like,
Yeah.
and then I told Haley, Mike's wife, that was the third person this week that has said, "Oh, you're the pastor?" Because this girl came that's going to be watching our dogs. We're on vacation. She came here the other day so we can go meet the dogs, and she didn't believe that. She believed it, but she couldn't believe that I was the pastor. The people here doing
Now, when you tell them that, was there like they were clearing the throat? They're like,
No, they're not. They're not laughing at it like that. They're just thinking, Scott doesn't look like he should be a pastor. Like he's not old enough,
That's
or
not a
he's
bad
not.
thing.
It's not a bad thing that they didn't think I was old enough, because the gray in the beard sometimes makes people think I'm older than I am. But I guess I guess my point is, I don't know what people like you were saying, John and Jordan are not trying to get any status. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, the church got understood as people trying to get status.
would positional be a good word?
Yeah, trying to position themselves. And somewhere along the way, the church got that, and pastors got this reputation of, I'm always trying to get to the next level, or I'm always trying to have more power and more authority. And I'm not. I always say I'm not bragging on myself or being prideful in any way, but that is never my motivation. You know, my motivation is never status. If anything, I consider myself unworthy and like not. This isn't me. This is God. Because without God, I wouldn't be stepping out doing something like a podcast. I wouldn't step in front of groups of people and proclaim it so boldly. And so I think that God He's working something here in the midst of us, like in the midst of the guys and the men, women too, here at this church, of seeing pastors and seeing just leadership in a different position where people aren't trying to self-promote, but it really is all about Jesus. And even the people right before us, I don't think that they're the leaders that led me to this point. I don't think their focus was self either. I think they were focused on Jesus too. But somewhere along the way, I don't know when it was because I wasn't a church person until 15 years ago. But somewhere along the way, the big name pastors became a big name pastor, and it tainted some people's thought about church and stuff like that.
Cast and Crown song. Haley likes it. They got one called, I think, Start Right Here.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it talks about that.
Yeah.
I think one of the opening verses, like, we want our coffee in the lobby and watch our service on the screen in the lobby, and we got rock star preachers, and it's like, well, it's, and he's not saying they're bad, but to go along with what you said, it's, I do think a lot of people that do spread the gospel are doing it for the correct reasons. They are fulfilling the Great Commission, and I feel like we're just a small part of the bigger picture of that. You've probably heard it. I heard it just a few weeks ago. It's because you're like, well, I want to be humble. It's like, well, how do you live humble? I mean, because it's like, okay, well, how do you get smart? Well, you go learn. Okay, well, how do I know I'm learning the right stuff to get smart? Because it's a bunch of man-made, intelligence and stuff. But they do. I guess you just keep reading God's word, because Jesus never had a house.
No, he didn't.
He never had a boat.
He's been on a lot of boats, though.
He was on a lot of boats. He could feed thousands of people, and he never cooked anything.
Always prepared for him.
Well, no, I take that back. At the resurrection, when they were out fishing, he said when they got to shore,
when they got back, he
cooking
had
fish.
it all ready for him. That's right. That's right.
I'll retract it. He did cook something.
So
But just live humble. It's like, well, how do you do it? Well, it's not something that you sit down and you study and learn. You just read this, and that will make you humble.
yeah, that's exactly
Because
right.
even Jesus said the messenger is never greater than the teacher.
Mm.
So he never put himself above God.
Mhm.
He always said,
When he had every right to put himself with God.
Yeah.
You know, he
and
was.
that's one of the reasons the Pharisees hate him. It's like, you're calling God your Father. You're making yourself equal with Him.
Right. They thought he was
But
being
I think
blasphemous.
that, and I think some of the greatest people that spread the gospel we'll never hear about.
Oh yeah, because
We'll never hear
a
about
lot of the people that at least that I see running in circles with that do the most, yeah, they're the quietest. They're like the on the low doing it, and I think that is super scriptural too, because the Bible does say whatever you do in secret, your Father will reward in secret.
Mhm.
And so I don't ever. I mean, I guess I don't actually think about that whenever I'm not posting stuff on Facebook or not posting stuff on Instagram or not. That's not my motivation to not do that. I just feel a certain type of way when people post everything they do when it comes to doing gospel ministry. Now, as a church, this is kind of like a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
You kind of have to post some of that stuff just so people in the congregation or your community see, okay, this is what we're given to, this is what we're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So when we
And you're invited.
so when we took
Yeah.
the Mother's Day roses to senior adult living homes, when we took the Father's Day key change, when we do different events, we take pictures and we post it. But it's never self-promotion. It's not like, look how awesome Haley did at this summer camp, or look how awesome Russell is.
Because, I mean, if you do a food bank, how you going to let anybody know if you don't tell them?
That's exactly
Hey,
right.
if you guys need some food, come over here and we'll give you some food.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have to advertise it some, but it's not for statistics and
That's right.
ratings and all.
And so I guess that goes into what we'll talk about today. But
Mhm.
the same thing, like at some point, people started promoting what they were doing and how they were doing it, and it started eclipsing or overshadowing the real reason they were doing it.
Yeah.
The gospel, the God that was behind it, the Jesus that was behind it, and
we got
somehow
a
they
little off track.
they got a little off track. And I've never, well, I was about to say I've never got off track, and that would have been a straight lie. But I've never got off track to self-promoting like pride off
Mhm.
track. I've got off track on a lot of the other things. So I can see where it would happen though. People start telling you do well. You know, people start following you. I've told Heather this before that, and I'm thankful for it. But as the pastor, if I request something or I offer something or say something, as long as it's good and like not anything that could cause, people are on board. They're like, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's try. And I told Heather, I said, this is scary. Like it's crazy having people just say,
Sure.
okay, yeah, let's try it. And I'm like, but then it's all on.
You look up, it's like, where's the rain cloud?
Yeah, but no, I'm looking up going, God, I hope I heard you right. I hope I heard what you said right.
There's some lightning bolts about to come in.
Yeah, so.
But to go back to the party, it's they were like, hey, who's the guy?
Who's the guy in the red shirt? Yeah.
He had, I'm sure it was Alabama.
I had an Alabama shirt on, yeah.
A on the shirt or something.
Yeah.
It was red or had was it elephant, right?
Yeah,
Messed with it.
mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, who's the guy there in the red shirt? Levi keeps saying, I was like, that's Russell. He said, who's Russell? I said, hey, that's the pastor. They're like, oh, that's the pastor.
Yeah,
it's like you're gonna hear him say pastor, and you're gonna come running in there. It's like, what?
That's what Haley said. I thought it was funny. I think it's good because I think it is good for people to see a pastor regular. Just a regular dude. Every pastor is just a regular dude. We're just trying to do what God called us to do. And so it's interesting as we walk this life and journey and do it. So vacation. He had one. I'm about to go on one. It was awesome. Wayne Chang and Allie did awesome.
And the thing when we go on vacation, like what I do as a hobby on vacation, I did it on vacation. What you do is pleasure. When you go on vacation, you're gonna do it all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
does it work? Not if you like it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We were, Mike was giving me, not a hard time, but he was picking on me yesterday because we were talking about golf, or it came up somehow in our conversation on the phone.
Yeah.
He said, why do you keep going and play golf if every time you go play golf, you come back and say, I was terrible.
I'm terrible. I want to keep going.
I started thinking about that. It's true. I've been playing golf since I was like 15 years old. We had a friend that was on the golf team in high school, and we would go to this golf. It was $7 to walk 18 holes, and so I could do that. And so we would go do that, and I was terrible then, and I'm bad now. But for whatever reason, you hit that one shot, or you do that one good. It's like you fishing, you catch that one bass. It's like, man, that was awesome. You're going back. You're going back. It's the same with me with golf. I'm terrible. I'll never be on the PGA Tour, but I hit that one good shot every time, and it keeps me going back. And so I guess that ties into what I told you I wanted to talk about earlier. This week I had the chance to catch up with some students that came up through Mount Zion Youth Ministry here when I was the youth pastor. 3 different ones, and they've graduated probably maybe 2 or 3 years apart from one another. And just in the last couple of weeks, months.
Is that from high school?
Yeah, well, college, everything. I mean, these kids are grown now. Like, we were laughing on our walk with the dogs last night because two of them, we probably met when they were 9 years old. And he told me yesterday when we were at lunch, he's 23. And I'm thinking, goodness. Like, I've literally seen you go from, like, a little kid through being, because I was asking him, you were in middle school when I met you? And he was saying, yeah, I was just going into 6th grade. And I was like, wow. So 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way through high school. He went to college, and now he's finishing up his master's degree in accounting. And so these guys are doing these awesome things. But it just made me start thinking, because in ministries, at least for myself, I'll speak for myself, sometimes it feels like nothing's happening. Like, man, there's not enough people getting saved. There's not enough people giving to the church. There's not enough people coming to church.
Or even responding.
Anything, like anything going on. And so you're like, man, am I just spinning my wheels? Am I just wasting my time? What are we doing? And then I was reminded by those 3 guys that, you're not. At some point, the scripture says that some people will water and some people will toil up the soil.
I was thinking the same thing. It says, who is Paul, who is Apollos? Well, he was talking about baptism there. He goes, but Paul planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but God gives the increase.
Gives the increase. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not going to sit there like, we got a little garden in the backyard. We're going to plant the seed.
Just sit there.
Yeah, we're going to water it, but we're not going to sit there and just...
Man, can you hurry up and...
Come on! Put some more water on it!
That's a pretty good analogy. So when I start preaching on Sundays, I'm just going to start thinking of a garden, and I'm just watering the soil, and it's going to take...
You're either planting the seed or you're watering it.
Yeah, very rarely are you the one harvesting the fruit.
Yeah.
That's a rare case. When God lets you experience that, though, it's like one of the moments. You're like, thank God, I finally got to experience what we've been trying to do. And so, so I was asking, where's the scripture? And Mike pointed it out in Hebrews, but this is one of the scriptures we'll talk about for just a bit. But it's in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, and the first 8 or so verses, I think. But we'll just there's a couple here, and 1 through 2. It says, "Therefore we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses." It says, "Let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." And so Jesus is here, and he's saying that you got to have this endurance. Like, you got to keep going, because I just read that, and it just struck out to me that he says that for the joy that was set before him, and then my mind immediately says, the joy that was set before him, he's going to die.
Yeah, he's going to be executed.
But the joy that was set before him was, I'm going to die, yes, but I'm going to redeem you. You now have an open way to get reunited with God the Father.
Yeah, he's making that bridge. And I like what I saw. I got a book that I believe his name is Steve Green, the CEO of Hobby Lobby. He wrote a book, I think it's called Faith in America. And I got that book and was reading it. And all through the book, they had advertisements that they would put up at Christmas and Easter. And one of them, I actually put on my Facebook thing. And just when I saw that poster, I was like, that's it. I mean, that is Jesus his whole mission. And it's kind of like old parchment papers rolled out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, son, I need you to build a bridge. Here's all the tools you'll need. I'll see you soon, love, Dad. And it's a hammer and 3 nails laying there.
Oh, wow.
I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
And that is what he's talking about. He said the joy. Now, I don't think him dying and being beat was joy.
That's right.
But doing his Father's will or God's will is like, this is a joy to me. For if God says, hey, I want you to go to hell, he's like, right on, man. Give me a one-way ticket. I am there. Not going to hell is what I'm happy about, but you're asking me to do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And then turn him doing that, he does sit at the right hand of the Father, and he does build that bridge between humanity and God, so God can have that relationship back with his creation.
Mm-hmm. And that's what fuels us. And so I guess it's a good reminder to read that and then just to have those experiences with those guys this weekend. Now one of the young men works for the Philadelphia 76ers, and have no idea about basketball, so you don't know.
I knew it's some kind of sports.
It is sport, yeah. So he works for the Philadelphia 76ers, and we talked right before the Atlanta Hawks and the Sixers just played in the NBA playoffs, and we were going to connect one night for just over the phone or something, and then I never heard from him, and the Hawks beat the Sixers, and then I never heard from him, so I texted him and said, hey, I'm available tomorrow night if you still want to talk, and he said, well, the Sixers losing to the Hawks has made my job a little more difficult, so I'll talk to you later. And then once the Hawks put him out of the playoffs, I haven't heard from him since. But we stay in regular communication. He'll text me just every now and then randomly out of the blue and just say, hey, boss, how's it going? Just checking in with you, all those kind of things.
Can you say what he does with them?
He does like so if when in a sport when you want to do video. When you want to study the video of the game, like if we played a game yesterday and I want to go back and watch all the 3-point shots that were taken, or all the times they drove to the right, or all the times they drove to the left. He works in the video department where they make the request. His department puts all the clips together, gives it back gets it all back to the players so they can watch what they need to watch. And I don't know exactly what he does with them, but that's part of what he does. His goal is to be an NBA coach. Like, he wants to be a coach one day. Mm-hmm. He graduated from Georgia Tech with a degree, an engineering degree. So he's a smart dude. That basketball is his passion. And so that meeting with him and then the other young man yesterday, it was a good reminder just that you got to keep going. We were just saying also Galatians, I want to say 6:9. If it's 9:6 and I flipped it, I apologize, but I think it's 6:9. That says do not grow weary in doing good.
Mm-hmm. I think it is 6:9.
Yeah, don't grow weary in doing good, because at some point that person, that group, those people that you're praying for and pleading for and just wish so badly that they could see the light at the end of the tunnel, one day they're going to get it. And for God to let us be like this little, like you said a minute ago, we're just a small part of the whole
it's
plan of God.
Galatians 6:9, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So apparently you can be doing good job, and it's like, I'm not seeing what I think I should see. I'm out.
Exactly.
Well, the crop's never going to.
Yeah. I didn't know that it said that part right after that.
Yeah,
at the proper time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
at the proper time. We will reap a harvest if we do not.
Couldn't that basically say in God's perfect timing? Like, when God sees deems it fit.
So all you have to do is listen, man.
Yeah, read and listen.
All we have to do is listen.
When it's God's perfect time, it's going to happen. And I guess, like we said before, the gospel is all about one person. It's about the one. At one point, we were the one, and so at one point, we were the person that was frustrating someone else, that was trying to teach us. And
they were hammering on us and hammering,
and we were just
investing time, and then it's like, well, where are they? Well, they got tired of investing in us and moved on to the next person.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's all in God's timing. Don't grow weary in doing good. So then that brought my mind to the weeping prophet, and because Jeremiah to me is just an interesting dude. Like, I don't know how many years we were just trying to figure that out, but there was a lot of years. But Jeremiah was out here preaching to these people that weren't trying to hear him. And so I was reading this just to read about him, and then I came across this quote that I thought was very interesting. I'll read the paragraph, but it just says this. It says, Jeremiah the weeping prophet, he stood alone declaring God's word while his beloved nation continued to reject the path of life. That's not the quote I'm talking about, but that I can stop there for a second. I think sometimes I feel that. I think sometimes you probably feel that. We're standing there declaring God's word to his beloved nation. Let's say the nation is Mount Zion, or let's say the beloved nation in this part is the people you're at work with and doing all this stuff. And they continue to reject the path of life, like the path that he was trying to get them back to God. And that can become like, all right, then what am I even doing here? They're not listening or whatever. And it said that ongoing rejection and personal isolation cost him, as many in ministry understand. So boom, that's what we're talking about. Those who heed God's call on their lives may suffer many abuses from an ungodly world. And I can totally agree with that.
Yeah.
We were studying a couple weeks ago, I think I said this last time, in our the lead book that we're doing, and it said like a call to ministry is a call to suffer. It was like, whoa, okay, I get that, but I didn't. Someone should have told me that from when I first started.
Well, it's probably good they didn't.
I know.
Billy Graham was really famous for saying it. He said, now when Jesus calls you, he's not calling you to a playground. He's calling you to a battlefield.
Mm.
He said, because Jesus suffered. He goes, if you follow Jesus, you're following him to execution.
Wow. I never heard that
said
before. He didn't call you to a playground. He called you to a battleground. I like that.
Yeah, I was like, and it's true. But why? Now, being from the outside viewpoint, when I was worldly, pre-salvation, I suppose. Me, I wasn't against it. I just didn't want nothing to do with it. But there are people out there that's like, if you say anything about God, we will burn you at the stake. It's like, but there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing bad.
You can choose not to believe it,
but we don't want to deal with him. Well, you don't have to. If you don't want, you know what? I don't like onions. So when I'm cooking, guess what I'm not going to put in my food? I don't hate onions.
I didn't know you and I shared that trait.
I just don't
can't
like
stand
them.
onions either.
It's like, well, I hate that. I'm like, well, don't deal with it. Go do something else.
Onions. We discovered tonight that I can't stand onions either. But
Haley does sleep them in the food sometimes.
Yeah, that's what my wife does. She'll tell me, but they're cooked down so much you can't even taste them, and I'm
It's
like
they look like fingernails floating in there.
That's true. I'm like, I agree with you, but they're still. I know they're in there, so it still throws me off. A.W. Tozer, historian, theologian from back in the day.
Brilliant theologian.
This was the quote that I liked. He said, "Always remember that you cannot carry a cross in company, and though a man were surrounded by a vast crowd, his cross is his alone, and his carrying of it marks him as a man apart." And so we all have these
consecration.
Yes, we all have these people around us, and we're in groups in the church together. That's what I think. It's kind of what I said on Sunday. Yes, the gospel is for all. Like Scripture obviously says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes, and that whoever means whoever, like it can be anyone.
All.
But in that all, there's a bunch of individuals that make up that all. And so until we take this collective gospel that's for everyone, that's open, and we make it very personal, and it's for me. Jesus died for me, and I'm the one that has to pick up my cross every day and follow Jesus. The people around me can't help. They can help. They can't carry my cross for me. That's when we start making that headway. That's when we start seeing change. And I think that's what I saw in those three young men this week, or in the last couple of weeks. I've got to see them.
They kept on with it.
They kept on. They're keeping on. Because these young men, because in our conversation at lunch yesterday, we went over like, okay, what's up with this kid? Where's this guy at now? Where's this guy at? Because there was a whole group of teenagers that I was in their lives 2 or 3 times a week doing youth ministry. And so these three stayed out of all the chaos. Some of them ended up, doing drugs and partying and hanging out here and doing that. And others ended up here and there. And these guys, every day, they're picking up their cross, and they understand that, the world may be changing and things aren't accepted and other things are accepted. That their thing is, Jesus got me to this point. he's maintaining me to this point. I'm sticking with him, and it's just cool to see young 20-year-old guys that you had like a mentorship and worked with living out the God life. It's a cool thing. It was a cool thing for me to see.
I can tell you, if I was 20 and you come up talking to me,
oh man,
yeah.
I couldn't imagine if
what's this old dude?
So I went into the Army at 19, maybe just turning 20. If someone would have came up to me in the barracks or out or somewhere out in the Army and was trying to talk to me about God, I would have just shut them down. I think it would have been like, "What are you talking about?" I'm trying to live my life.
There was a prime example. We went and visited a church. Haley's like, I want to start going back to church. So she went and visited some. I'm not going to say what church this group was from, but it never seemed to fail when she would go. You know, when she did the guest thing, she'd fill out the card and put it in. And this particular day, she must have been at work because I was at home by myself. And these two old guys showed up at my house. It was like, hey, we're so-and-so from, this church over here. It's like, okay. And so I didn't even go there.
Right.
She went. I was like, well, yeah, you go check it out and let me know. And they showed up. And one of the guys, he was really cool. The other one, I mean, he was just arrogant. And these were the deacons of this particular church.
Gotcha.
And whatnot, and we're out in the garage. I'm like, hang on a minute. So I go in the kitchen, and I pour me a couple shots of whiskey, and I go back in the garage, and I'm shooting whiskey.
I'm trying to run them off.
So, hey, y'all want some? True story. True story.
I think the first time you met me, you tried to run us off, but it didn't scare us.
No, I didn't try to run you off. I probably don't even remember you were there.
I won't tell the story that I always tell because you say I always tell it the first time we met, but I was walking.
I remember because Chris came over the first time and then you came with him the second time.
That's right.
He probably said, "Hey, I need some reinforcements.
You got to come see this guy."
It's like, hey, you need to come check this dude out. This is awesome.
Yeah, but honestly, for me, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, oh, thank God. This guy's a normal guy. It's not this holy guy that's going to be trying to do it.
This dude's running around in the yard with no shirt on. I remember we had Pantera blasting and had a couple beers floating.
Yeah, it was a good meeting, and look where God's got us now. What, 8 years later, 6 years later?
I think Haley looked it up and said it's been 9 years.
Whoa, 9 years.
I think she said it's been 9 years.
That's crazy. Time flies when you're having fun.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
But getting back to the persecution part of the story, I got into Haley and myself talked about this. Now I haven't researched this. Maybe some of you guys can and let us know. But to me, it seems like out of all the religions in the world, it's like Christianity gets attacked the most. I was like, if it's so bad, or why is it just Christianity that seems to be attacked the most? I was like, it's not going anywhere. And if it wasn't the right thing to do, why are they trying to get rid of it? So it's not actually the people, but it's Satan. It's like, that is the worst thing for you. So you need to eradicate that. You can't.
Yeah. And I think
and if they've tried it since the book of Genesis, I think
to eradicate it.
I think Egypt was the first one to try to eradicate the Israelites. We can't.
Yeah, I think it's because it's. I would say I agree that it is persecuted a lot.
No,
but
again,
I would think
not researched that.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a couple of other religions that get. I would say there's some Muslim people out there that get associated with some bad parts of the Muslim religion that they don't practice at all. So they would probably have a little bit of a beef with who gets persecuted the most. But I think the thing about Christianity is it's because it's so. I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through me. I mean, that's pretty bold. I believe it with all my heart, and that's what I live my life for. But to go into a place into a world where there's so much acceptance and I don't know, just when you throw down the gauntlet and say, believe in Jesus or that,
it's the feel good society.
Yeah,
it's like, no,
And so that makes it tough and so that really kind of ties into what we said at the beginning. At some point, pastors and Christians and churches and people got this bad rap that I think it was like you said that when I wasn't a Christian, I wasn't against it. I just didn't want any part of it. And I was the same way. I wasn't against it. I just didn't want a part of it because all I heard people saying was all the stuff you couldn't do. Like if I'm a Christian, then I can't drink anymore. If I'm a Christian, I can't go to parties. If I'm a Christian, my friends had to be this. And I was like, well, I don't want any of that because I like the people I'm around. They, whatever. And then you understand it, and your lifestyle does change. Like you're not partying hard like you used to, and you're not getting blackout drunk, and you're not doing all these things like you used to do, because God changes your motives. He changes your want to. He changes. You don't want to go to those parties anymore. I mean, you want to go out and hang out with friends and do all these things, but you don't want to get so wasted that you don't even remember the fun time you had. You want to go and do these fun things, but then your motivation just comes from a whole different place. And so I agree, Christianity probably does get persecuted a lot. I don't know if it's the most, but I had a conversation with a gentleman today that has visited our church, and he said, and it caught me off guard, he said, the reason I don't come back, he said, because I assume that everyone in that room is already saved, and I'm not. And I think they might be looking at me funny. And I'm like, dude, never. That is never what...
It's like, come hang out in this room.
Yeah, I was like, that is never what is going on in that room. I said, did someone make you feel that way? And he's like, no, that's just what I think. I said, well, that is not true. We're definitely not a church, a body of that. But somewhere along the way, Christians got a bad rap and started making it about themselves, or a pastor did, or a church body did, and it's turned people off. And so then it makes our job a little tougher, but it also makes our job something that we can do because
I think
we have the proper motivation, I believe.
Every occupation has that. Because I think I run into that when I started mechanicking. Well, mechanics are just here to rip you off or something.
That is the word on the street.
Police, they get you run into one cocky police officer. Well, they're all bad.
That's right.
No, they're not. It's like, no, it's like, well, mechanics, they try to, sabotage you. It's like, look, we're smart, but we're not smart enough to make your car break down at a certain time during the week. We're not that intelligent.
I'm going to rig this up so next Thursday he's got to bring it back to me.
Yeah, man, I'm running a little low on cash. I'm going to hit this little button like the bait car, you used to watch.
That's right.
That's
bait.
Right. Yeah, that's what we do.
Set them and shut it down.
Yeah.
When they
you
kick
see,
off.
that didn't work half the time. But I hear it all the time. I had the same thought. Just a bunch of hypocrites. Yeah. It's like, well, yeah, but not all of them.
Yeah. And so as a church, I mean, I feel like Mount Zion obviously I think Mount Zion is a special place. I devote my life here, but visiting other places and talking with other pastors, we truly are a unique place where there's so many different people from different groups and all over the world that meet here, and from all different socioeconomic money things and different jobs, different stuff, and God's got us all here. And so it's just cool to be a part of it and watch it. And so I get down some days when things aren't moving as fast as I want them to move. Like, man, I just preached on this yesterday. I was hoping today that somebody would have had this revelation and called and said, hey, I heard what you said yesterday, da-da-da-da.
Good job.
And it doesn't. Well, they say good job a lot. And then I'm thinking, do y'all say that to everybody? Like, say good job all the time.
Like I told you yesterday about the golf thing, I'm trying to encourage you, man.
I need encouragement. I'm going to play golf when I'm on vacation, so hopefully that doesn't stress me out on my vacation. It's just fun to be playing golf, I think. I don't care. And I say that, but then as soon as I get out there, I want to do good.
Now, let me ask you this. If we were to put a microphone on you privately, you didn't know it was on you, and you went and played golf, would we still know that you were a preacher?
Yeah. Yeah. For most of the time. That's what I was about to say. For 92% of the time, I hold it together fairly well. There's like about an 8% chance. And it's never, when you play golf, they team you up with other people. So it's usually my brother and some other people we don't know because they want you to be in groups of four. So it's always, if I ever do lose it, it's never when any of them are around. I'll be it's usually when I hit a ball into the woods, and then I hit the next ball, and it hits another tree, and boom. I might let a word or two slip out of my mouth, and I have to just walk back to the cart and say, God, you know that was frustrating. You saw that shot I just
You know what
hit.
you would hear if I was out there fishing, especially if I'm. The hardest cast to do is they're called skipping it.
Okay, like skipping a rock.
Yeah, like you skip your bait, like you want to get way up under a dock
Yeah.
or under a bunch of overhanging trees, because those fish want to be way back up in the shade and
Mhm.
cooled off. I'll throw it in the tree. I was like, yeah, this sucks. Or you throw a bait and it's got a bunch of hooks on it and it gets hung in a bush.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to go get that bait.
I think that helps me too. So being on the golf course, doing that, you said the other day, like when you're putting a bunch of torque on a bolt, and then it breaks loose, and you like blast your hand on something.
Now, so you wouldn't want me mic'd up at work.
No, yeah, that's what I was thinking. So there's moments where you don't want. I don't want to be mic'd up because it would definitely get me in trouble. But those same moments where when I'm mic'd up, what you would hear reminds me about the people these are the people we're trying to reach, the ones that are talking that way and acting that way, and I'm that person. I mean, I'm the same as them. Just clinging to Jesus to get us through this life that we continue to struggle through. That no matter, I mean, reading this, knowing that he says that for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame, and now is seated at the right hand of God. I mean, honestly, that should just make you run full steam ahead and try to never do anything wrong. But for whatever reason, we have this. I mean, it's the built-in sin that's in our soul that's just there. That
You'll
sinful
never
nature.
be good enough.
You can never
You'll
break
never.
it completely.
And honestly, it's true.
And it's true and it's good, because if you ever did, then you'd
need Jesus.
weary away from it. You'd wander away from Christ. Right? That's exactly right. And so,
And it says in Hebrew, and I'm borrowing his Bible because I don't have mine.
and it's large print, which you said
Yeah.
you could see better.
Yeah, it's
so.
called Blind Man Bible.
The BMB version.
And this version says, in sin which clings so closely.
Mm-hmm.
I like the version that I had pulled up on the NIV, which so easily entangles.
Mm-hmm.
So it just lets you know that it won't take but a split second and you'll go right back to
And
the
it's just
world.
right there.
Yeah, so you have to consciously choose to follow Jesus. It's a choice. It's a freedom choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a guy ask me one time, he said, well, it says either choose Jesus or choose the world. Is that really a choice? It's like, yeah, it's two.
Mm-hmm.
A or B.
Right.
That is a choice.
Right. Right.
And there will be times where you'll go back into the world and back into living for self and sin, and you won't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Satan's
Slip
very
in there
good
quick.
at what he does.
Yeah. We talked a couple weeks back, I think the scripture, and I'll paraphrase, I won't try to quote it, but it said the Satan is like, the enemy is like a roaring lion that's just looking to and fro, trying to find his next victim. And we said that he never attacks you in your strong parts. He never attacks you if your prayer life is strong. He doesn't attack you there. If your witness is strong, he doesn't attack you when you're out doing. He attacks you in those moments when you're home alone, weak.
When you're on the golf course and he goes off in the trees.
Yeah, he's like, this is a weak point for him.
This is it.
Get him
I'm
right.
on it.
Get
It's
him
like a
right.
panther just jumps on your back.
And even if I sense it coming,
bites
like,
you in the neck.
and if I sense it coming, like, oh, this is the moment, I can see Satan's trying to make me, blurt out this word that I shouldn't, and it stops. It just comes out, and then I'm like, man, almost made it one whole round without.
Like the other day, I was in a situation and something triggered the adrenaline in me. I was out working, and I saw this particular thing, and I mean that adrenaline just, it just takes over. It's like all your blood's gone. It's just pure adrenaline, and I was like,
That's right.
You just have to, do the woo-saw. It's like, I'm just gonna go over here and do my work. Just maybe I can do it blindfold, and I won't have to look.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, he'll do it all. And people have a misconception that Satan, he's some giant, like minotaur. He's got the goat legs and the horns and the trident and he's got the little spade on his tail. It's like, no, he has got you fooled. Already.
That's right. That's right.
I said that is something that man just made up in his mind.
Yeah. And so, I guess that motivates you and I to keep trugging along, like keep going, because I mean, it said he endured the cross for us. He did all these things. It's already been done for us, and so in return, what we do with our lives is give back. What we do with our lives is serve and do different things around the church. You know, some days when I'm here in the office or working around the church, I will just go clean something, or I will just go do some manual task, because it helps me remember not to try to elevate myself. Like, to remember, if you're ever too big to do the smallest of tasks, then you're not ready for the task that God's called you to do. And so I try to do that, because it just puts me back in a good, it puts my spirits in a good place, but it also puts my mindset and my heart back in a good place of, all right, Jesus did all this for us. You know, who am I to say, I wish people were doing this, or I wish they would do more. I'll just keep serving, because somewhere, just like Jeremiah kept preaching this gospel and people weren't listening, we're going to keep preaching this gospel. And we never know when they actually listen.
The thing about Jeremiah, it said he preached for 40 years.
40 years.
40
I added
years.
an extra 0 on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
40 years.
We talk about all kind of stuff before we actually get recorded.
I said 400 years, and Mike said, no, I think that God had straightened out the year thing before
yeah, I
then.
think it was somewhere in Genesis.
So
he
40
limited.
years. I mean, I'm 43, turned 44 in a couple of weeks, but I mean, I couldn't imagine my whole. And so that puts it in perspective, because I'm sitting here going, I've been trying to do this for a year and a half, like preaching every
And
week.
you're already whining about it.
You're not whining about it. I'm just saying.
I was just kidding.
Yeah,
Just
so-
busting his chops.
So, man, I'm about to go on vacation, so I'm ready to
He's
wrap it
ready.
up.
But see, you got another day. But your brother-in-law's here.
Brother-in-law's here. I need to go get a little practice round tomorrow in 9 holes of golf, because I got to be warmed up for Monday when I hit that nice course out there. You know, make sure. it's
Well,
all
we
good.
hope you guys are enjoying it. It's this is not scripted.
Yeah, man.
This is real life.
It's fun. We have a good time. I'm glad we live. Mike wanted to do this for a while now. I'm glad we're doing it. It does give us. I hope what you get from this whole thing is that we're just two normal dudes that at some point Jesus reached out and saved us. And so what we want you to see is that He can do the same for you. You may not be behind the microphones in a podcast or standing on a podium or in a Sunday school class teaching, but you do live a life. You are
Let me tell you,
in
if
front
you
of people.
think church is stale and stagnant, come to the life group
Yeah.
in Reclaim. Right here in the same room where we're recording it. I guarantee you, it is not what you think it is.
It's real life.
Here.
It's real life, and I think that is
Yeah.
what helps. It's real life, and so we appreciate you guys. And so share, like, subscribe, all of those good things.
I think there's a bell.
There's a
Turn
bell.
the
You can
bell,
hit
the
the little-
notifications.
Yeah, you can turn the notifications
I only
on.
know about that because I watch a lot of YouTube.
And they all say that.
Yeah. There's like, make sure you do that so when you upload it, and I think it's on Apple
Of course, Apple Podcasts. Yeah,
which
all
I haven't been there yet.
all those good things. And so we're trying to get it out there. So please share it with your friends, family, neighbors. The more we can get the word out, the better. And you can always join us any Sunday morning, 10:45, Mount Zion Baptist Church in Jonesboro, Georgia.
9:30 in Reclaim.
9:30 in Reclaimed. You can even be in the Reclaimed lair and see what it's all about. So you guys have a great day. Have a good evening. Enjoy your weekend.
Enjoy your vacation.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I
I'll
think
see you
it's
soon.
going to be maybe a week or so. when we
Week,
do
man.
This.
It's a week, yeah. So we won't be back next week. We were thinking about doing maybe a little hybrid something, recording a Zoom call.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see.
But we'll see. We'll release this. Today's Thursday?
Mhm.
Yeah, so this will come out later on this evening. So hope you guys enjoy it. Until next time, God bless.
See you guys.